Well, it's time for set 2 of your Paladins World Championships here in Brazil. My name is Finch, and we are moving on to the second set. Parallax, I think surprising nobody, won their first set 3-0. They've been doing it all season, and looks like they continue doing it now. Tell me, break down this next one between InControl and Carnage, though. I've got Merlo here with me on the desk. Merlo, I know you're ready for some more action here, man. We've got another really good set coming up.
Yeah, very similar to the last one, actually, because we have very similar power structures. You know, during the entirety of the last BR set, we saw Parallax Gaming, and how strong they can be. Watch out for Carnage, because they are the second in command, and it's the entirety of the tournament. So I'm really expecting a lot out of them. And of course, we're going to move to who's going to lose this one against, Ignite. So pretty much balanced. Kind of, semifinals coming in from this one.
Yeah, I think so. And, you got to remember when we were back in North America, we saw Pickled Pepper drop. There's been some upsets, right, in these tournaments before. So just because Carnage are that higher-seeded team, and they are the higher-seeded team at 11-4, they had a great regular phase to make it here to this point. It's no guarantee that they're going to succeed. What we have seen, Merlo, is that you need to be able to adapt at this tournament. When new strategies come in, we saw the Sky earlier, right? We've seen some of these surprise picks come through and really catch these teams off guard. If you're not ready for that, suddenly your tournament could be over just like that.
That's the key word, adapting, being able to actually embrace this new meta. The problem with Daedalus not being in the pool is they're kind of relying too much a little bit on Khan, and that means Khan as a solo tank, incredible for sure, but a lot of times when we saw him just standing alone on the point getting shot at, and not too much you can do at that point. But in general, we can see a little bit for Carnage, though. I want to focus on this team in particular because it's the same as Parallax, it's the same as Pickled Pepper. They're kind of the favorites this time around, and I'm super sure that a couple of their teams and players could really pull something off incredibly out of nowhere. So Ares, for example, he went hard in this season, almost to 700 kills, something like that, just alone by himself as a DPS.
Yeah, Carnage has been popping off, and their opponent lining up across from them are InControl, who had some ups and downs throughout this phase, making it to this point, but they did manage to qualify in the end. So we'll see if this team can kind of get it together. I know that you were talking about that adaptability. I assume that's going to be important for InControl in a tough matchup, Merlo.
Yeah, and also it's so different to see the meta in BR. We're used to, those classical picks in EU and A, but then you can basically take almost anything you want in BR, and we saw that before with Chalice, for example. So I'm expecting, if Sky was, the surprise pick in the, in the days before this one, I think we're going to see a little bit more Chalice and a little bit more different approaches to supporting and picking support for his side. And for InControl Nation, we talked about Carnage, how good they are, how flexible they can be. But I want to talk in specific of InControl Nation and King Kaiser, for example. I've been able to actually cast a lot of games with him in it. I think he's an incredible flex player, and in general, he's so much adaptable. He can play anything at your disposal. Very good in Droxus, I'm going to be honest. And the first map we're going to see him in is going to be Shadow Desert. So probably, I'm expecting a lot of vertical action because it's just a long and drawn-out map.
It is, right? It's a big, wide-open map, too, that will start with no Jack Falls, no Splitstone Quarry, popular maps banned. Maybe the Ascension Peak Frog Isle, not as big of a surprise. We do often see those taken out of the pool. So Carnage Gaming will be in that first pick spot this time around. In Merlo, we have seen Makoa be highly valued up until this point. Io has been highly valued up until this point. We've seen the off-tanks like Ashe and Rom. These ones are the ones they're looking for, and Rom getting banned here. Are you expecting any of that to change, or are we going to keep seeing the same stuff prioritized here?
Probably Torv could be the next one, and I'm very, for sure. We see Zen, they don't want to play against those flex players that I mentioned before against InControl, and Droxus is just a good ban all around. You don't want to play against him, especially in Shadow Desert. But I also think it's a kind of a respect ban against King Kaiser, and Rucka's going in. So as soon as you drain out that tank pool, what you're basically left with, okay, we can pick Io as a first one, because Io basically virtually makes your team from 5 to 6. Or you
Sure.
can go Makoa, which is another good tier 1 pick, but at this point you can take a combo if you're in Control Nation. So basically it's time for a flanker, time for DPS, or still a couple of supports. Janus is available, Corvus is available. You can go with double mark.
Yeah, all the great pockets are still out there, and it looks like they do want to go ahead and grab Corvus, so taking this opportunity to prioritize the one that they like. But you're right, man. Makoa has just become the pick, hasn't he, in that first pick spot. That half shell makes him so potent. The hooks are the big difference makers, too. If you're able to get those pulls, you're really setting up for your team. So now I feel like that's what we want to see here, right, Merlo? Someone that can really follow up off these big Makoa hooks, but they go for this Torvald right away to make sure they've got that pocket to amplify, I assume, some big damage deal.
And I'm super scared because basically, you know, Carnage were like, okay, you can have the Torvald, that's fine, we don't need it. But if you really want to, we can take it back. And at this point, Torvald is so essential because not only is a tank and an extra body you can basically place on your point or just to pressure out the enemy team, you're actually making completely immune to damage one of your flankers because they have so much kit for survivability. So if you place Torvald and Zin, great combo. Torvald and Lex, great combo. Torvald and Meave, that's going to be hard because also you have the extra supportingness of Midnight Pulse. So on the other side, yes, you have Corvus and Vivian has been in a really good spot for a long, long time. Even though, you know, nerfs are approaching, even though she also got nerfed, she's still incredible for sustained DPS. And Lex, you know, we're talking about special picks. Lex is one of those picks that you don't really see that often, but it's going to be huge down here, especially to chase Meave down.
No, you're exactly right. This Lex could be huge. His ability to burn a target, to have that mark on the right guy and cycle through till he gets to him makes him pretty strong. But how do you feel about Victor? I feel like he's fallen a bit by the wayside lately. We've seen Vivian's and Cassie's and Tyra's and all these other picks kind of rise up into those slots where Victor used to thrive. Here on Shattered Desert, I feel like you can get a lot of value out of Barrage.
He can, and also thanks to Luminary, you know, he's incredible with the first burst shot. He can actually, you know, 100 to 0 you very quickly. The problem, I think, is since it's a good hit scan meta, you want to go with Sniper. So Canessa, so Strix are very important, and we saw that before, you know, the other days, and even this first set. And that's why Victor fell down a little bit. But at this time, since you have Khan and Anara, they're such huge tanks. The barrage on the point, the grenades, you know, that's a lot of pressure you are actually not going to be able to take for that much longer, especially because the only healer is Corvus. And he's going to spread those heals around. And I'm hoping he's going to be able to manage all of that, but that's a lot of pressure.
He's got to make sure he keeps them both healed. Meanwhile, the Makoa, largely just a solo tank over there. So will Carnage win as we expect, or will InControl get the upset? Let's find out with map 1.
Great job on the desk, you two. It's Fawn the Legend and Gore Miser here to bring you to the first set of Carnage Gaming versus InControl Nation on Shattered Desert. Now, I'm interested to see how this double pocket sort of works. I mean, you got the Genos, you got the Torvald. Torvald got let through, actually, and you mentioned something when we were watching it. 4th pick Torvald. Not something you typically would have expected to see at all.
Yeah, our North Americans and Europeans that have already played are all baffled at this draft. I mean, I'm looking at what Carnage have, and I can think of 7 teams that would die to have this in a competitive game. I mean, this is something that it's just perfect for you. You get double damage amp with the Torvald alongside the Genos. You get Ares on the comfort pick in Maeve, who is going to be very, very prominent on this. One of the best flanks on Shattered Desert, outside of maybe Eevee, and maybe just alongside the Eevee. And then you get the comfort pick in Victor, even though he hasn't been as big lately. With the double damage amp, he's going to shred people. This is looking like a really good draft for Carnage. I just want to see if they can be as in control as they should be, because the other side, I mean, at least Anara Khan are going to stand stalwart against them.
Well, their positioning seems to be decent enough. They did force out a couple members on the side of InControl Nation, and so far it seems like everyone's just having a poke war. No one's really committing to one objective or the other. Everyone's trying to see if they can get people low enough so they can commit to fighting Ares. It's brought down pretty low, thanks to the Torvald, the Genos heal. It's going to be enough to keep him alive, and he's just rotating from left to right. Everyone's poking at each other. This is probably the most reserved mid-fight I've seen in a while. They actually stalled out so long that the barrage gets used, gets built up just enough time, but even still, no one's dead yet, except for the Makoa. That's the first kill 2 minutes in.
So now you lose that. Torvald, not necessarily known for standing on the point. This is great for InControl. You get a lot of pressure onto the mid because of this, and they just not a lot that you can do on the other side. Yes, the damage still exists, but you just lose Cool, unless Ares pops off in the next couple of seconds. This point looks like it might be done.
He gets killed. He tried to make sure that the clock struck midnight, but the only thing striking is the lie. Can't escape that one. As a double kill for Lex comes through, Makoa might be the next on the list, as he immediately gets killed soon after that. 99% to 18. No way for Carnage Gaming to be able to touch InControl, capture this objective. Really, this Lex has been pretty interesting to see. I mean, towards the tail end, when the fights started happening a lot more frequently, you get that first blood on the Makoa, Scooter goes down. Lex seems to be in a position to where he's able to freely rotate. I don't think anyone's been keeping any pressure on him.
It's very difficult to. I mean, look how fast he's moving. Again, it's one of those things. I mentioned Maeve and Eevee on this map because of their mobility, and Lex maybe doesn't have the outright same capabilities they have, and right there you get to see why he's not able to escape as easily. But up to this point, you know, 3.5 minutes in, you've had nothing but a lexicon of why Lex is so good at doing what he does. He's just so good at traversing the map. He's got a lot of movement speed in that kit, and King Kaiser's using it very efficiently to jump around the map. Well, I guess jump is the wrong term. Slide around the map on the sand here and just kind of stay in the face and around Carnage Gaming. And this is one of those matchups, Fawn, that realistically Carnage, as good as they've been in Brazil, and as much as I think because they're second seed and because of history, they're favored here. InControl is a bunch of competitive guys in the minor league last year as well as what they've done this year. They've always been able to keep up with this team. It's with Parallax that's the issue to keep up with. So Carnage have to be a little more careful, I think, with their engages. Even now, I'm wondering if they're going to be able to keep this defense up. So far, the answer seems to be yes.
Half Shell has really been playing a pivotal role into the retake situations that we've been seeing Carnage Gaming be able to take advantage of. The Half Shell being dropped means that they were able to push in. We saw how many kills they were able to get because of that as well. Richao just poking, engaging a one-on-one with Khan, but that one-on-one's not going to look too well for you. As the overpower goes through, drags him right on in, keeps him pinned against the wall. The rest is history. As the Control Nation managed to take care of one, and means they force the retreat on the remaining members of Carnage Gaming. Makoa, Scooter is really low once again, and actually ends up being killed. Looking for a different opportunity. They want to get into the back line, see if they can put a stop to Genos. They kill him. How much more will they be able to deliver? Cool and Z is going to be able to at least take care of the Vivian. But the rest of InControl, they're not too worried because they're already pushed into the spawn of Carnage.
Yeah, taking care of the Vivian only seems to be maybe not even half the problem. It's this Lex every single time. King Kaiser right now is the reason they keep moving forward. I think Ice Monkey is contributing pretty heavily as well. Being this Inara and kind of at the front, making sure that things can continue moving forward is big for them. But right now, I'm looking at Carnage. Good defense so far, but still not necessarily stalwart. They need to do something fast.
Seems like for right now, overtime is a factor. No more time remaining on the clock. They're trying to see if they can find the kills necessary to make this go their way. They found 4 already. The last man standing is the Inara. She's on the cart. She's getting focused from all different angles. Bubble onto Maeve. And a couple more daggers are going to leave her in the dirt. 1-1 tie already as Carnage Gaming decide to tie things up for themselves. It was a rough mid at first. It didn't seem like there was a lot to be gained there, but I mean, Victor doing Victor things, being top damage, 81,000, almost 40k above the Maeve. I mean, that's Victor for you.
That is. It is always a little ridiculous, though. Like, I'm always reminded, especially with a Torvald and a Genos behind him, like, he's already vomiting damage out there, and now it's just going to escalate because of that. I mean, it is almost, again, disgusting how much he's able to get done. But you have to look at how that's converted to kills. Carnage, like you had said, they didn't really have a good time around that mid. They got a lot of poke in there, and that's what Cool has, but not as much of that converting over. King Kaiser, on the other hand, a ton of kills, a lot of credits for those kills as well. I mean, you can look at it, full cot plus 3 items after that, all tier 1, but still, that's a lot of money that he has dropped out, and he's going to be full kitted coming into this. It's dangerous to go up against.
They're being a bit more aggressive through time and space, goes wide in the back, but they manage to get 2 kills because of it. Grenade tossed out, knows Lex is back there, goes for the chase and gets the kill. Runs them down, if anything. Makoa, Victor on the hunt for the Khan. Gets the hook, the battle shout, just to keep himself alive for a little bit longer. Is not going to mean much, especially when a hook's dedicated to go right at you. 45% for Carnage Gaming. 4 ultimates online. Make that 3 as he used the barrage The minute that wall drops, so will the ultimate. Not going to quite use it there, trying to make sure they keep them as far back as possible. Hook goes out. They got rid of Rachao, but they will be able to hold on to the objective for a little bit longer. Not much can be done. Void Grip on Khan means he can't touch. And that means Carnage Gaming submit themselves a second point in this game. Vivian, Victor fighting 1v1, but Anar comes around. The Earthen Guard is gone, so it might be a little bit easier for him. The lifesteal, the Void Grip, the whole 9 yards is enough to keep Victor alive. That lifesteal built in to his cards, and the healing from Genos as well as the Void Grip is enough to take down an Anar.
We went from rough round 1 mid-fight to the easiest round 2 mid-fight Carnage. I mean, they just decimated InControl. They took care of the Anar early on. They got rid of Lex early on. And again, those were like the 2 biggest problems that I could see. Khan, Vivian, as well as this Corvus are a thorn in their side. But once you get rid of the real problem up front for InControl, they don't have enough to fall back on. If Ice Monkey goes down here, this payload's going to keep moving forward. And honestly, I think it's going to continue following this route for Cool, who right now, he hasn't been getting as many of the boosts, but he's just shredding people. I mean, look at this.
Triple kill already on Rachao. The Torvald is the last person you expect to get a triple such as that. If anything, Cool is going to be able to at least get one of the kills and start Rachao from consistently being on that rampage that he is. Gonna have to calm down at some point, if anything. He's shooting around the corner, seeing if he manages to get the shots on Anar, which he does. He's just spreading out damage. Victor holding angles, making sure he's focusing on whoever his team might be currently calling out to kill. Hook goes out, gets the kill onto Anar as well. They're trying to stall. They lost their tank. What more will they be able to do? Cool with a double kill. Carnage make this a 3-1 against InControl Nation. And you phrased it perfectly. Started off so bad for them. This is not the type of stuff that you would expect to see on a team that really wasn't doing too well in the very beginning. Scooter missed position, pushing up too far, gets killed. And then you have situations like this where now it seems like they're looking like a whole different team from round 1.
I really wanted to call Rachao out because I see you look when you see a support or a frontline get a triple kill. Most of the time, they're getting some last hits in there, right? And there were a couple last hits in that, but Rachao actually did a lot of work in order to make sure that one was confirmed the way it was. But it's hard to tell and break it apart when Carnage Gaming work the way they did. It was just so solid, and you can see, I think, why things are going the way they are. Movement speed increase here, firing stance 5 as well as Predator 5 for this Victor. Make sure he's staying alive. He's not really worried about the supports. He's just getting it all done on his own, and no one's been paying attention to him.
Stalling on the objective for a little bit longer through time and space. The whole 9 yards, seismic crash gets brought down. Barrage is being called. The storm sirens are here. Who will they find? They manage to find. And Vivian, there's one. Khan already low on the side as well as Nara has to try and find some sort of way out. The Earthen Guard is going to be enough to keep her alive as she's escaping, but not for long because they still got her in the sight lines of the Victor. Gets the kill. The silence on Lex. Make sure they can submit that kill for themselves, and they have the Hyper Beam. If anything, they're going to sit back, chill on the objective. Anyone that tries to make it there will be ulted away as they try and keep this one locked down for him. Ult goes straight on out as Khan actually does manage to touch this one, but I don't think it's going to matter for much longer. Half shell drop. Makoa just trying to hold his ground here, but all the way in the back, Maeve manages to flank around, gets the kill on Corvus. That's going to be curtains for Anar. No Earthen Guard, no healing, no more life left remaining for her. Overtime is the last thing that is available in the game, and Carnage Gaming take this dub over InControl.
I really admire InControl's ability to get back to the objective. I mean, getting hyper beamed off and still managing to keep an overtime going for a little bit is insanely difficult, especially against the way Carnage were playing. And then Carnage showed their backup plan, right? Hey, if hyper beam doesn't work, we're just gonna slaughter you. Like, we're just not gonna let you touch. We're not gonna worry about it too much. They burned through the tanks pretty well there. I think they had a good draft for Shattered Desert. I'm excited to see what they do as time goes forward because I cannot imagine getting Torvald and Genos on the same team again.
Well, Shattered Desert is the first map that we go through, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't think Corvus and Torvald have a chance, Genos and Torvald, excuse me, have a chance of being on the same team again either. Let's toss it back to Finch for the analytics.
Yeah, thank you, Fawn. That is the first win for Carnage. InControl started off well. They won the first mid, but after that, it was all Carnage. And as they said, I think we got a great argument for maybe banning Owe Torvald, a great argument for why Cool is good on the Victor there as well. And Merlo, you were there watching me with it the whole time. And how often do you see a Torvald flank behind and get a triple kill? Not a lot, right? But it happened there.
You know, scooping off those kills, that's all my job. All good, all thanks to me. And the problem is, when you leave Torvald out in the open, that's just too much. It's a reason why he's always first ban, because it's such a huge plus for your team. So I guess at this point, in control, we saw a little bit of what they can do with that Lex, and that was the surprise pick that we were not expecting as a flanker. That first middle point completely open thanks to his ultimate. In general, pretty good for them. But Victor with Luminary, with the Janos combo, thanks to the conversion, and everything else on top of him is just a huge plus and a huge amount of damage. Very hard to counter, actually.
Yeah, difficult to do anything about how much damage there was for Carnage Gaming, and it felt like, you started talking about it right before we made it into the match, that it was going to be difficult for this Corvus to make sure that everyone was healed up, right? He had to worry about the Inara and the Khan, and tried to make sure that the rest of his backline, the Lex 2, were healed. It was just not going to be feasible for him. And on the other side, Carnage with this Genos and the Torvald bubble, it felt like once that first mid went down, it was a little bit too easy for them to keep up with InControl, and InControl really didn't have a way to slow him down.
And as you can see from Ares, the problem is those credits are starting to roll in. That's a huge plus, because not only you have the possibility of being just tanky by yourself, you can use a bit more spread of Ignite, etc. You're good to go, because you also have that extra shield. That's a huge plus that you're not getting with any other champion. You have a tank who has a support, who has a Babel shield. You're getting buffed up. You're able to be so much aggressive, so more aggressive with your flankers, and that's it. Also, you stuck Luminary on top of that thanks to Janos. It's over. It's over into the mid to late game.
Yeah, and 11 deaths for Amadeus. That Vivian never got to get off the ground there, did it, Merlo? With Ares causing problems for it, you had to worry about Scooter's hooks as well. There was just no room, I think, for this Vivian to breathe, and InControl end up dropping this very first map. And I don't think it's such a big surprise. 148,000 damage from Cool. Now, that is maybe a bit of a surprise. That's a ludicrous amount for only 5 points, but we kind of expected Carnage to come in and be the better team, at least initially, but it's up to InControl, I think, to understand where the problems were, to make some adaptations, maybe make sure, like the casters were saying, there is no Torvald Genos combo, try to break up some of what worked for them in that very first map.
Absolutely. They need to, go back to scratch and find out a better way of picking, because they picked for themselves and what they felt comfortable with, and that's okay. You can pick Vivian. Again, she's in a really good spot against Victor, for example, but in general, that was not the right strat for, Shadow Desert, and it shows. It shows a lot, and we're bound to go to Fish Market, so that could be a little bit different. We're still bound to see, Khan, Janos, and all the others, because it's easy to get an elimination out of the map. But yeah, something needs to change quick on the DPS and flanker side.
Yeah, gotta hope that Torvald's banned, though. Hyperbeam can get even more value on maps like this with the big wide open hazards out there you can fall into. So perhaps you won't see him being picked up this time. InControl will be the ones in the first pick spot this time around. So already, in and of itself, that's a big adjustment, right? If something really valuable is left open, they can make sure they're the ones to grab it in that first spot, as once again, some off-tanks are being prioritized, taking away the Ruckus. And another Zen ban from Carnage. This has been consistent from them. They do not want to deal with this Zen.
They don't want to play against him, but that's the problem. When you ban Ruckus and Meave, so many good picks are out in the open. Torvald, once again, could go for InControl, but also you have Io. I wouldn't recommend Io on Fish Market for the solely reason such an open map. When you place Luna down to the point, she's going to get melted off for sure.
Yeah.
But Rom, which is one of the most consistent tank, and 100% ban rate for BR, and we saw, yesterday, he basically was never played. You have the best tank in the game, but also you left another really good pick in the hands of Carnage, and they're going to capitalize on that. And Torvald, once again, coming in for them, such a good pick, such a huge plus. We're always going to say that. I think they're going to go with Cassie at this point. That's okay. So they just need to find the right flanker, and I think they even can take, Lex by themselves or something else. You can play Strix, Snipers, Canessa is also pretty good. You have, a way to just balance it out. And Leon coming in from InControl, they really want to play Leon in BR, and that's okay, but she's kind of, down a notch in regards of other DPS that you can actually pick.
Yeah, maybe not the most priority DPS you can pick right now, but seems to be the one that InControl want to go with. Somewhere out there, though, Rochelle is at his PC, unable to believe his luck that he's got yet another Torvald game here that he gets to play. So I assume we'll get to see it pop off, and a good call there, Merlo, for their flanker. They do indeed elect to pick up this Lex, who we saw for InControl, at least on that very first mid-fight, was dominant, right? So now we can see that over in the hands of Carnage. Not exactly sure who they'll give it to, but certainly will be something that can take over this game, and the Khan as well. So when they grab their other supporter, will be a bit of a solo tank Khan here for them, but I think they've got the tools here to make it work with that Torvald there as well.
This is a hot team.
And that's why I love Brazil. You know, they are bound to experiment. They always go for the, you know, the niche picks, the special picks. And from Carnage, even before Lex got the upgrade, you know, the dash in midair, they were actually playing the Torvald Lex combination, and that means, you know, I've seen it. That's a lot of sustain. And with Janos front in the mix, Lex is completely immortal. You're gonna see Lex snowballing hard in this map, being able to just go into front and backline and take everybody out. And Khan, as you said before, good call right there. With Khan, you also have the elimination method for the middle point if you're going for a last point and last matchup. And in general, you can use him to basically counter Fernando. I would never pick Fernando in Khan because you can just grab him and he's out of his shield. Fernando is really appreciated as a tank, but I'm scared for InControl. It's going to be hard for them.
It is certainly going to be a difficult map for them. Some bad matchups here, but maybe InControl can deal with it with this double frontline composition they're working with. Again, though, Corvus is going to have his work cut out for him, making sure everyone is sustained up. But Rom's ability to kind of move up on his own, to create some path, some room for the Leon perhaps to move along with him, maybe the Shah, whoever it is, he'll have that opportunity to try and set up one of those side lanes. But which way are you leaning here, Merlo? Carnage or InControl? Who do you think takes this?
I think Carnage. That Lex is going to be completely uncontested. And the problem with Rom is he's going to actually run into the enemy composition, and there's a Janos. So as soon as you try to run or escape from a fight, Janos is going to just pull you up. It's the same thing as, you know, with Grover and the Crippling. So at the end of the day, Rom is not going to be easy for him to just roam around and be, you know, helpful for his team. Strong tank for sure, but we're back in action.
We'll see if it'll work here. Game number 2 with Carnage InControl. It'll be Fish Market.
You know, Gore, when we closed out the last set on Shattered Desert, one of the things we said was not to let... one of the things we said was not to let Torvald Genos through again. And we go, there's no way. There's no way they get Torvald Genos again. That would be asinine to assume that. And yet here we are with a Genos Torvald once again.
And we're going to Fish Market, man. Like, look, Rom is insane. I actually think so. InControl have a really solid draft, but the thing is on this map, that's not the kind of draft that wins. I think if you're on Stone Keep and you lock in what InControl have, you're probably rocking the world of Carnage. I mean, you're controlling every mid, you're winning every fight afterward. But when you come to Fish Market, there are a few key factors that usually win. Triple DPS is typically the #1 strat to go to here. But when you don't get something that's triple DPS, let's say you maybe need a support. IO not available for you, so you go somewhere. Well, you get Torvald in there, plus the Luminary boost that you're going to have from Genos. Your 2 DPS are doing the effective damage of 4 DPS here. I think Lex and Cassie are going to have a fun time.
Well, you already see that they're forcing them all the way back. They rotated all the way behind them. You know, now plenty of a good enough position to sort of melt down this Rom. Rom is having a hard time trying to position himself in a way that doesn't end up getting him killed. He has to position behind the Fernando shield. Cassie may have dropped down a little bit too aggressively. Dropped down behind them into 5, and therefore is going to get burnt respectively. Rachel goes down next, trying to see if they can get Max Souza, but they're peeling for him pretty well. It's hard to make it to him in the long run. They have to jump off the sides of the map. I don't think Ares made the correct play there by jumping down into 5. They had control, and they sort of lost it with that.
Yeah, the minute Ares was down, all of your damage is coming from Lex, but you know who's overextended because they were trying to save him? The Torvald and the Khan.
Right,
Both
exactly.
of them out of position at this point now. Your team can't collapse the way they wanted to. And what's crazy is how fast that InControl are able to capitalize on it. They stagger out those kills beautifully throughout that round, and now they're picking up even more to make sure this payload goes. And yeah, they lose a couple in the process, but I think this is well played from them because it's a draft that admittedly, I think is going to struggle as the game goes on, but unless Carnage are able to play a little more clean cut, they're going to be seeing that more and more often. I think this ROM is just consistent enough, same thing for the Nando, just consistent enough that you can't afford to make mistakes on the side of Carnage Gaming, or else this is going to happen again and again.
Well, Corvus is going to be the next one that falls here on the side of InControl Nation. As Rom was forced away, Fernando's meeting the same fate. Ares might have overextended a little bit again, or may have held the wrong angle. Regardless, King Kaiser is going to be the one that ends his life. Shaolin moving from target to target, trying to see if he can fight one-on-one against the Lex, but it might be a little bit harder. That is Lex you're going up against, and if you were his bounty, it makes it even more difficult for you to try and win that one-on-one trade, especially when you got the Torvald and you got the Jenna. Those Scooter rotated around, of course, to help him, but even still, you have a situation now where he's in perfect position to overpower whoever he pleases. And I think that's sort of the perspective that we can try and find through time and space. Goes out, manages to catch Leon, but even still, that's what they were trying to do, stall long enough for the rest of the cavalry to come in. Lex is on a tear as immediately as he moves in. Void Grip goes out to stop Rom from moving and running away. Now the rest is pretty much history. They can keep this zone going for long enough. InControl have a huge hill to climb.
Yeah, and it's just outside their base. Once they get past that, though, there's another 50% of the map they have to cross, right? Just to get back to the payload, and then they have to go all the way around. Yeah, it's going to be difficult all around the board, I think, for InControl to get there. 30 seconds on a map like Fish Market is not a lot of time to work with. Even if you get all the kills here, Amadeus finding 2, getting back to the payload and getting it moving and finding conversion is a different conversation. The biggest thing I'm noticing, at least that seems to be a trend here right now, is that Carnage Gaming are just not a first mid team. Like, I don't know what it is about last game and this game, but getting into that first mid fight, they have just not looked the same as they have on defense and then the rest of the game. To see if they can stabilize the same way they did on Shattered, because as of right now, it's going into overtime, and they still got that defender's advantage.
Yeah, no, they really haven't been able to capture these first mids quite consistently enough for them to really try and keep this lead. And typically, they capture they lose one, and then they win the rest of the set from that point on. Lex engaged in a one-on-one against the Rom. The Torvald bubble keeps him alive, but not for much longer. Rom runs into the back. He wants a Cataclysm. That's what he's setting up for. As he goes out and manages to catch 2 Amadeus with 3. The Enlightenment went out. Wasn't the result of the kills, but it is enough for them to clean up shop here. As InControl Nation slowly roll this cart right on through. Everyone else is going to get dismounted. No one else really able to touch either, as the cart is going to meet its end. Cassie drops down, but at the last possible second, what a beautiful setup on the Cataclysm ultimate. The Enlightenment goes out. So a couple of ults used there on the side of InControl that really secured them that final push.
What a turnaround. I mean, Tuga 5-1 and 11. I think I saw 7-3 and 7 there for Amadeus. So maybe not as clean as he would like it, but still really clean when it comes through. And this combo, I mean, that ult being able to just lock him down, that double kill, gifted to you by the gods that are, I guess in this case, just straight up Tuga coming forward. A great ult, great angle for him to go forward with, and that's what this ROM is going to bring. That's the downside that I think Carnage are into this. When you say triple DPS on this comp, right, or on this map, and how that works, part of what works well with that is typically also some aggro tanks. And when you look at ROM, he kind of gets the best of both worlds. He's really hard to kill, and he can output a lot of damage because he's hard to kill. And I think that's where this line is being written by InControl. They could feasibly keep this going.
At least managed to grab one with the ultimate here. Their Corvus is gone. They don't have a healer. So if I were them, I would start running. But King Kaiser opts to still stay at least in a little bit of the fight. Keep in line of sight, but I don't know if I agree with that one. The rest of Carnage Gaming are following through on this engagement here. Fernando goes up, but they're really looking for Leon. Goes down soon after that. Same thing can be said for the Fernando, who are on the side here. Looking for any dismounts, looking for people that leave spawn. But even still, they've been zoned out long enough. The comeback mechanic is prevalent enough for Carnage Gaming to capture this first mid on Fish Market.
And if you've ever wondered why we say it's so important, if you have a con on your team, you want that overpower going into a mid-fight, that's why. They get one kill at the very beginning, gifted to them because you hit your ult if you're con, and then there's not much you can do about it. Like you said, there's no healer. At that point, maybe I'm trying to turn and run. I'm already engaged in the fight. I can't really do anything against it. And because of that, Carnage just, well, do this. They just take them down one by one and keep that payload moving. They're about to get halfway. And remember, for Fish Market, this fishbowl area, like when you go down towards where the payload is actually converted, once you crest that hill, it actually becomes a little bit easier for the attackers as opposed to the defenders. So you really need to get your heels dug in here if you're in control, and you need to do it fast.
Yeah, and already it seems like Fernando's being forced out. This is the same thing that happened last time. Lex in the back line, sneaking around, giving him the old solid snake treatment. Triple kill for the Lex already. Forces Corvus back into his spawn, and they end it just as fast as the last round went as they tie this thing up 2-2. Plenty of ultimates on both team sides, but even still, I really think that that's the second time that happened. Lex was hiding in the box, right? The cardboard box. Yeah. Nobody suspects the cardboard box of anything. And then when they check in, when he pops out of nowhere, everyone else has just ended up getting murdered. 14-3 and on a 13 streak for Cool.
I wish I had looked at what his slash line was at the end of round 1 versus round 2, because that's insane. To go to wherever he was to 14-3 and 10, you just know he put in a lot of work for it. And now full Cot's coming online. Ares there with the Wrecker online as well, so he's going to be causing a lot of trouble for the shielding, mainly from Ice Monkey. But Amadeus, I think, was, what, 7-3 and 7 is what I had called it. Now 7-6 and 8. Doubles the amount of deaths, gets no kills that round. Yeah, as time moves forward, that's an issue for you. Your carries are getting isolated. They've got no overpower just yet, Vaughn, so they won't have the same prowess at the beginning for Carnage.
Yeah, but it's only at 83%, so it's building. Rom's caught out actually on the left-hand side, tried to escape, and I know he got silenced. Lex in the back. Here we go. The Torvald bubble is on him. You want to know why you don't let Torvald and Genos through for the Lex? This is exactly why. The silence goes out. The law is ringing true, and you find another kill onto the healer. You may lose your life, but they don't have anything to heal left, if anything. They have to back up. They can't really commit to holding on to the objective here. Even Shaolin goes down soon after that. The big game damage, especially with the Genos buff, is enough to delete that ROM. There's nothing else that he can do. No more space that can be gained for another 2 seconds at least as the Entropic Breach goes up. Gets dropped down, and the overpower pulls Fernando right on in. 72% for Carnage Gaming. Ares playing around cover extremely well, waiting for his teammates' cooldowns. The silence on King Kaiser. Lex Torvald, the deadly duo, if anything, are on the sides here, trying to force King Kaiser back and get the kill. They've captured the point. Rom is the next one on the menu. He's served up, cooked, and eaten by Carnage Gaming. The next one left is going to be the Leon. She's already marked, moving in once again. Corvus is in the back line trying to escape, projects himself out of the fight, but can't help his teammate. Ice Monkey goes down. Corvus forced back in the spawn. They're on a tear on the side of Carnage Gaming.
I mean, just absolutely decimating people. It feels like, again, first round, whatever it is, the Carnage just need to kind of get the jitters out, right? You come into the game, you just shake them out, and then second round, third round, as of right now, they're just absolutely dominant here over InControl. Not exactly what I expected to see, even though they have such a solid draft. I mean, after the way rounds 1 have gone in both games, it's just a complete turnaround, and now, once again, they're cresting that hill. Things are about to get a little easier for them.
Lex has to back up this time. Can't quite take on the fight, take on the day how he did before. Not without the Torvald bubble, of course. Goes right on back in as the right-hand side is really being dealt with. No one's on the cart pushing it forward, rolling it in at all. Lex decides to help out the members on the right-hand side, but it might be a little bit too late. Shaolin forced off of the side, excuse me, as he's trying to combat slide his way around, going for Corvus once again. No way he gets the kill right. No way he manages to get the kill in the back line and uses the spawn door to all himself. If anything, Carnage Gaming managed to get that kill and stall things out. They can't really push up without the Corvus. He may be able to get back in time, but it doesn't matter. They can't get any more positioning in the back or in the front to stop them from making it back to the cart because they have no healer.
Now, that Lex death is important on 2 fronts. 1, it stops the stagger, but 2, he was on such a massive streak. If that kill comes through for anyone on InControl, you've got ult charge that's going their way, credits going their way, and now you get a full regroup from Carnage. They're looking to try and tackle this, but low health bars all around fall.
Void Grip already going to be brought out by Tuga as he tries to run in. Going to get stopped by the Genos, but all the rest of the team, King Kaiser, they're not going to be slept on either. The shots come through, stalling out the Torval as much as humanly possible. They don't want the kill, and I saw, not I saw, but people sometimes are still confused about what exactly happens, why people jump off the side. That's why you don't want to be staggered out too long from your team, especially on a retake.
I mean, at that point, he almost staggers himself. He could have just kept standing there for a little while. Exactly. Going to have his team catch up to where he was. Unfortunately, though, I think that's just well played from InControl. If that payload makes it another, let's say, 5 feet, I think things start to get a little catastrophic for them. But luckily for them, they found the right the punch back. And again, it's on the back of King Kaiser. Look, this guy, when we first saw it, it was very easy to discuss, okay, King Kaiser's playing Banmoji, right? I mean, it was a fun conversation.
Right.
Of course, she got nerfed, so we don't have to see the Moji as often. But King Kaiser is still that player you have to worry about. Only 8, 10, 12 right now, compared to, Cool over there, 18, 6, and 15. But definitely making an impact, and as long as Heat Haze is available, which as of right now it's not, he's going to be deadly. Not having that coming into this round, Fawn's definitely going to be impactful for this Shaolin. He's not going to hit as hard, and he might not have the same impact that they need on InControl. The last couple of mids have been overwhelming in favor of Carnage Gaming. I just need one more.
We'll see how they start things off. The overpower is available. Just going to look for an opportunity to use the scout to see what they can find here. Through time and space, going to go wide and hit the shot in the backline of Leon. One's already gone. And that's going to be the next one. They're moving in. They got the kill on him. They force out the Immortal. If anything, they have the overpower already ready on the side of Carnage Gaming. Fernando jumps off the side. The kills come through. It's too much for them to handle. They don't want to get staggered out. They have to play passively here. They have to find a way back onto the objective. The Through Time and Space found the hit in the back line, got that early kill, and the rest followed suit soon after that. Khan's looking for Rom. The overpower is going to come through. I know that it is. He's looking for an opportunity to find anyone, one of the frontliners he needs to take care of. Knows that Fernando is there. Uses the overpower. Where you going? Sends him off the side or not good, but it doesn't matter. It was just for a stall. Carnage Gaming are still going to be able to capture this one and take another dub against InControl.
And just a hair too late. You see that Rom come crushing through at the very end. He was ready to, but just slightly mistimed there. You got to go a second earlier. Those windups having cost a couple of abilities in the last couple of games. You can really see the impact there, though. And that's, I think, where the biggest thing InControl, they always seem to be punching back, but sometimes they're just a second behind where they need to be, and that's another, I think, glaring example because you lose the map for it. That overpower was a gift because Fernando doesn't go off. If you were just able to get overtime, we're looking at a different game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Thankfully for Carnage Gaming, they weren't actually able to get the overtime. They may have been not wanting to have InControl, weren't quite in control of the situation. I gave a pun. I can give it back to Finch. I'm done. You go ahead and pass it back.
Yeah, Fa, that'll be 5 minutes in the timeout chamber for you. We can go back to discussing what happened there on that last map. Carnage, man, seemed to be able to get it done. Let me think about what the pieces were. Was it the Torvald and the Genos and the Lex all together? Was that what really did it there for the... I'm thinking yes.
Yeah,
I'm thinking yeah.
I think that Lex was completely immortal, the crazy thing that when we were watching the game was he was getting shot at and the health was going up instead of down. Not even Cauterize was stopping him. So, good predictions, I know, but in general, I think that Carnage was a little bit too sure about themselves. We can see it right now, Cool in the replay. And the problem when you have so much buffs, so much markups on you, is you don't want to engage in a fair fight, You don't want to go against Cool 1v1. You want to throw everything you got and stop him, and then move and focus to another player. And he was completely unstoppable for the entirety of the game. But I'm going to be honest, there was a time when InControl was really getting on. And that middle point, could have been much different, as Gore said, as soon as they took the overtime. But that didn't happen for sure, unfortunately. But yeah, Carnage, a little bit too sure, a little bit too in control for the whole game, but not that much. They need to be playing a little bit slower and a little bit more methodical, but that doesn't matter though, because it's 2-0, and you can see that, from just the stats coming in. Look at Cole, 20 and 6. That's a flank you do want to have on your team. 135K, and on top of Ares just helping out, sniping each and every time, those low health targets.
And look at Crimson's damage taken. 12,000 damage from InControl was put under the support, and that's often a good metric for how often the other team is winning fights, right? How often they're able to eventually take care of the support since they're so often at the back of the fights. And that gives you a good idea. InControl was rarely winning fights, was rarely getting back into some of the priority targets, and largely because Cool was on a rampage, aided and abetted by Genos and Torvald bubbles and luminary buffs and heals and everything you could ever want in terms of trying to have a good game as Alex. You even saw him pull off, as Fawn said, the Metal Gear Solid there when he snuck up behind the Fernando outside of the spawn. So even have a little bit of fun mid-rampage was cool on that one. So now for InControl, you are facing the lower bracket here, aren't you? Stone Keep is all that stands between you and defeat in this set, and suddenly being in trouble of getting eliminated in that later set. So they got to figure something out here. I think a really good start, though, would be not letting them have Torvald for the third game in a row.
Absolutely. I think they finally, learned their lessons. It's time to ban Torvald. I mean, I get you're scared of Ruckus because he can go into the backline. He's basically a flanker tank. He can trade 2 for 1. Yes, but you have tools to fight him and counteract against that aggression. But with Torvald, it's something, ethereal. You can't touch. You can't expand him. You can just give the Babel Shield, and your target is immortal. So in general, those flankers are never going to die. And InControl at this point, they're playing on their turfs. They banned Splitstone Quarry, but they're feeling comfortable enough to play on Stonekeep. And I need to remind you, Stonekeep is a very, very vertical map. So in general, it's going to be the same thing going on into this game. Maybe, if they find some snipers, if they try to find the aggressor with something different, could be okay. The fact that ROM, once again, is open, Ayo, in this particular moment is open, that could be a good pick all around for this kind of engagements. There could be the better chance. And ROM, of course, getting picked up by InControl.
Yeah, this is a surprising way the picks and bans have gone. Finally, InControl banned the Torvald, so we thank our lucky stars for that. You mentioned the verticality on Stone Keep. That's why Carnage banned away the Androxus this time. And we really just have not seen Io get valued much here at all so far. So maybe both the teams right to kind of pass on it, knowing no one else wants to grab it. So InControl do grab that ROM, that priority off tank when he's not available. But Makoa goes the other way. And just when we thought we wouldn't see her, it is Io time here on Stone Keep. And Merlo, this is one of those maps where Io can thrive. There's only a few places you can poke your head out to contest Luna, and you can cover all of those.
Absolutely, and you're right to think that Io should be the key factor in this, upcoming game. The problem in general that I see is that when you're taking ROM, because it's so strong as a tank, and remember, Atlas is not in the pool, so you're kind of out of options if you're talking aggressive tanks, right? So ROM, okay, but you're giving up Makoa and Io, so another very good tier 1 pick for tanks and a very good support. Cassie coming in because, we saw that Carnage was very flexible with it and actually worked out pretty well. And she could be able to shut Lex down because Lex at this point with Vivian does not have any sustain, does not have any markups, etc. And since, of course, you got ROM, that means you're not going to be picking up Khan. Fernando is such a good pick. And with Io on the point, Luna on the point, is going to be super safe. The Immortal, you can go back to church and pop your shield right back up as soon as you need it. That's going to be super hard for InControl to actually break through. They need to burn through a lot of shield, Aegis and half shell. That's a huge amount of walls in between you and the enemy team.
Wow, I don't know if we've seen both teams going double frontline at all yet, but here we are. Rom, Anara, Makoa, and Fernando will be doing battle here on Stone Keep. And I'm a bit surprised Carnage went to the double frontline since they already had the Io oftentimes. That helps, make the single frontline work, but that's not what they went for here this time. Now they have this backline, the Victor, the Cassie, working together, and that's plenty of damage to try and take care of this backline, but no real flanker. So in terms of getting back there and causing problems to this Corvus or some of those immobile backliners, they're going to have to break through rather than go around.
And that's my main concern, because we know Record is not as good as before, and you have to burn through Makoa and Fernando, and you can build basically Record on Vivian. I don't know. The fact that they went with an Ara, it's kind of hard to go through all that defense. And Victor is a great DPS to just counteract the Lex action at this point.
the Victor and the Cassie should be able to deal with them. So perhaps a difficult one for InControl, but one they have to win or they'll drop down to the lower bracket. Game 3 on Stone Keep.
Interesting to see this Cassie being brought out to sort of stop this Makoa and Inara. But what I'm more so concerned about, Gore, is the Victor. The Victor can pretty much free fire into both Inara and Rom. That's going to be hard for them to stand anywhere. And I understand they got the Lex, but they don't have the Torvald to quite make it as relevant anymore. And is that a Shrapnel Victor?
Oh, I actually really, really like that going into this. So
I
want to say a lot of people love burst mode, and there's good reason for it. Effectively, you take the place of a sniper. But Shrapnel on a map like this, there's a lot of tight corridors, especially if he's running like grenade resets here for cool, then he's going to have it more often than not. And you have to look at the strengths. InControl have the Rom-Lex combo that's going to be paired much like you see right there, and you get a grenade either into that or into the other side, you're going to shred people.
You already see that he tossed one out, manages to get the burst damage enough on the Vivian for her to get brought down. Just too many people to have to be concerned about. You can't deal with the Fernando and the Victor. Maybe if it was a one-on-one, it'd be a different story, but in Church, there's a fight breaking out. Tuga is going to get killed, Scooter, so it's going to get killed as well, so that's a one-for-one trade in terms of the front liners. They're already on their way back to the objective here. Luna, I love to talk about Luna because of the fact that you drop Luna and I imagine like a time bomb ticking, because I feel like you have to win the fight, right? Like you have to win this battle against the opposing team, because if you don't, Luna will just cap the point for you. It feels like a ticking time bomb already on the objective as Io heals up the Cassie, and they have to get the point. They have to stop the Luna, but they can't. That's the power of Io. They can't get there in time.
And perfectly placed. I actually think I just saw Luna standing on top of the payload as well, so it's moving even further because of that. And all because, you're distracted, and like you said, there's not much you can do here. If you're Inara, and let's say you just, kind of walk your way through, you force your way through, you stop shooting, you stop caring, I gotta go touch the point, you're just gonna die. You're not going to be able to get there. So you have to be as cautious as InControl are, but like you said, the problem is that you still get a full 5-on-5 fight for Carnage. In any other circumstance without IO, then you are in a 4v5, effectively. You've got two defending on each side and then one person standing on the point. But having that extra healer and that extra positioning come through is huge for Carnage. And Brazil, it's a while back. You can roll back to phase 1 when she was available for him, but that's where IO had, if I remember correctly, her highest win rate, because they were the teams that would let her through more often than not. And if you were one of the lower teams, maybe you didn't quite win with her, but it gave you a much better chance at taking down the game, or the teams like Carnage, like Parallax. But giving it to someone like Carnage or Parallax, that was almost a death sentence.
All right, it seems like things are going pretty well for Carnage. They have the Barrage. They've got good stuff in terms of damage as well into Rom. Of course, he's not going to be able to win that fight, not without the Fernando being there. He's just going to shoot right from behind Fernando. There's no harvest, no souls for him to harvest against these two, not with the shielding up. It means that Victor pretty much becomes a mobile turret. The barrage goes out as well. They're willing to dedicate a few things to the death of Rom. Disengage bolted as well off of the side. There's a lot that's going on here. They drop Entropic Breach in that little corridor right there up on high ground, and it causes damage to be spread out, but even still, King Kaiser drops down. Man, just gonna kill him Ares, and pretty much Anar is still on point, trying to stall. They haven't really been able to push past this archway. It's so far seemed like the hardest thing Carnage has had to do all game.
Man, it's going to be difficult. This is the archway. Like, it is the main and pretty much only choke point on this map that can cause trouble for anybody. And as highlighted on the desk, and I think we touched on a little bit earlier, there's no real flanker for Carnage Gaming to get back there, get in there, and really cause disruption to pull attention away from InControl. They can really dig their heels in here. I don't know if it's going to be enough to fully stop it every time, but at least for now, it seems to be putting the push to bed.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if they'll be able to do much here. The game is going to be tied up thanks to InControl, thanks to Carnage Gaming as well. Carnage Gaming wasn't quite able to push in. See that they were a little bit too disjointed, people going in at different amounts of times. One person going in over the other, and therefore getting picked off means that InControl were able to punish them correctly. But this is what they have to do. This is what they have to be concerned about. You have to win these fights. I don't know where you got to position, what you got to do. Just make sure you do it, because when Luna gets dropped on point, you can't have that capturing every single time.
From this point forward, I'm just worried about the midpoint spawn. I'm going back to it. I
Right,
see Bulldozer
exactly.
there for Ice Monkey, and that's going to be helpful. And as Merlo had highlighted, Amadeus is going to be able to get that Wrecker to help deal with the shielding. But I feel like there's just so much to tackle. There's so many hurdles to jump over. And at the end of the day, this is the downside. Maybe you deal with Luna, and they did pretty well, but you have to stand on the objective now where everybody's going to be able to look at you.
And the Cataclysm falls through. Man, just get the stun on both of them, but as soon as Fernando isn't stunned anymore, he's going to use that Immortal to keep Victor alive. But look at this, the kills coming through on the side of Carnage Gaming. Ares with a double cool manages to get a kill in keep and make sure that he keeps some credits in the back pocket as well. There's somebody back by their spawn, and that's the Rom. Managed to run all the way back there, waiting for a better opportunity to make it back to the objective. But once again, Luna's on the point. You have to be able to stop that. Anar did a great job at stopping it earlier. Will she be able to manage the same thing again? Locking a 1v1 is the Rom, and the Cassie. Duke can get out time and time again, but the hook goes out, obviously stops the Rom from running. They get 2 kills, they get a third one. You have 90% already available for Carnage Gaming. As they managed to get a kill on Corvus on the way out, they've captured another objective. Now, can they roll it in this time?
Well, the whole point of this aggression right here, look how many dismounts they're getting, and a lot of damage into that Anar, actually. A couple more shots from Ares. That's going to be a kill. This is all just to get that payload going as far and fast as possible. And again, you can't speed it up, so it's not like it's going to move any quicker, but just trying to get around this last corner, maybe hit that archway a little bit faster so that if it is another chokehold, you have a minute and a half, 2 minutes maybe to deal with it overall. But ultimately, that timer is going to be the thing that Carnage, I think, are playing against the most. They've been dominating the fight, and as long as they can keep that pressure up, especially with a barrage available now, I think they have the capabilities to break this down.
He's looking for different targets, just trying to find something, spread out that damage, use the barrage to make sure people are uncomfortable in low health bars. They can't really stall. They managed to get the kill on King Kaiser. Tuga had to have dropped down to try and get away from both the Victor and the Makoa, but that sprint was stopped in the middle of it, so he didn't have any DR to make sure he escaped with his life. Carnage Gaming have now passed the archway. They've made it past their demons. They fought them and they won. Now it's a matter of can they push the cart in its entirety. Anar going down might make it seem more likely. Be Gone is going to be used, knocks him up, gets the AoE damage as well. That chunks people down considerably. The rest of the remaining members of Carnage Gaming are firing on whoever's around the objective. Souza can't touch, and so King Kaiser, Tuga, the last two on the objective trying to stall things out, are going to be killed. That means that things are now at a 3-1.
And again, it's just been a little bit of a rough early game for Carnage and then flourishing into so far a beautiful late game. Ares this time, the one that's really driving forward. 13-4-4, finding a lot of kills. We saw what this Cassie's able to do on the sideline, doing a lot in terms of damage. And ultimately, it seems like finding Amadeus and King Kaiser every single time. And both of them have 6 deaths. It is not where you want your carries to be if you're in control. And the problem is once again, I'm coming into the mid saying, how do you tackle this? You can't stand on the point. That's what they tried last time. You can't win the fights on the side. That's what they tried the first time. There's not many other strategies other than to maybe 5-stack onto one side and just overwhelm one of these two splits of Carnage Gaming.
Already manages to get the disengage bolt. It's good damage on Rom, chunks him down if anything. Scout is going to be used first ultimate here. Second one to follow up after that, going to be the barrage, and manages to get a kill as well. Inara goes down. Same thing could be said for King Kaiser. Rom is stuck back in enemy lines as he gets killed. They did manage to get Makoa, but even still, there's no one else that really can stop this IO from just freely capping the objective. Luna's just been on the cart the entire game. They haven't been able to stall things out, even with the bulldozer provided by Inara. Ares is willing to die here, moves in front of the Inara. Fernando comes in to try and peel, but Luna's been capping the whole time, and nobody can touch. Rom tries to sprint on to stall things out, but it's too late. That's the power of IO. That's why she's so good. That's why people commit to using her. Not only was the DR enough, but so was Luna. She captured that point every single time. I don't think I saw a single person on the objective.
I mean, they didn't need to, right? It's the glory of it. It's the problem is that draft is going to win because you get a tank plus a carry and a support on one side, a tank plus a carry on the other side, and Luna, the only one standing in the middle. If you go to fight Luna, you're now standing out in the open and they can just shred you, which is what happened to Ice Monkey the last 2 rounds. And otherwise, you lose the fight, similar to how you did in round 1. It just was a strong draft from Carnage, and unfortunately for InControl, they couldn't take care of it.
Yeah, it just was a little bit too much for InControl Nation to try and handle. Carnage Gaming, they make this the second 3-0 of the day. Let's toss it back to the desk to get some closing thoughts.
Well, in all the regions, the top seeds have struggled sometimes, succeeded in others, but here in Brazil, no doubt, no question, the 1 and 2 seeds are moving on easily with 2-3-0 sweeps apiece. I still have Merlo here with me on the desk. Merlo, man, just another dominant map here from Carnage on Stone Keep. The Anara pick has seemed to really struggle for my money lately. No matter how much fun I want to wish her back to success, it's just not happening right now. What did Carnage do here again that was so successful?
I'm going to say we don't take no prisoners in Brazil, and clearly shows in those seeds. The problem, I think, is what I've explained before during picks was the amount of shields that you have to burn through. And, you know, you still have Makoa with the half shield, Fernando. You don't want to break Makoa's shield just because then he gets it back up, right? But at that point, the tunnel vision was so crazy because they saw Fernando sitting on point or sitting in those angles, and basically they were, God, how can we turn around? How can we move around Fernando? We don't know. But then, you know, at the end of the day, he was just covering maybe for Victor most of the times. You could have gone the other way in the extra mile to actually get some more targets instead of just focusing so hard on those tanks and why you're not removing them. But also, as Gore said before, the problem was Luna in this mix-up. You know, when you have Luna on the point, you're basically trading the fact that you're playing as 5, you know, versus 6. So it's so hard, and when you're exposing yourself to get a Luna, you know, she's going to get shielded, she's going to have a half shell on her, she's going to have so many people just dancing around, and also you need to deal with like a pocket Fernando coming your way with the Aegis shield, and you're not going to burn through that. So Inara also as a pick, I think, was the nail in the coffin because she's very good as an anchor, as a point tank. She's the best one at it. You know, you want her to have down there onto the point and resist as much as possible. But the problem is she's so immobile, so she's not moving. And into the late game, her ultimate is not scaling quite well in regards of Fernando and all the others. So at the end of the day, Inara was just standing there, not doing damage, not blocking anybody. The damage was not coming in from the backline. It was a matter of factors that just came to a complete downfall for InControl.
None of it was really working for him. So InControl will be dropping down to the lower bracket. They'll be facing off against Ignite Gaming. Both of teams suffered a 0-3 loss at the hands of Parallax and Carnage Gaming. Of course, those two will be moving on to the upper bracket semifinals, the winner of which will move on to the finals with a 1-map advantage. We're still a ways away from that eventual outcome. We got to figure out who's going to get eliminated in this very next match, right? Ignite and InControl, one of those teams is going home, and then one of them has the reward of fighting either Parallax or Carnage in the next match. It doesn't get any easier from here, Merlo. It was tough at the beginning. It's tough all the way through. But, of course, that means you got great games coming for you all day long. It'll be a real quick break. We'll be right back with that lower bracket match.